Okay, good afternoon. My name is Jessie. I'm with the Assistive Technology Advocacy Center of Disability Rights New Jersey, and we are here today to talk with the folks from NAREChat about Glint. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the microphone figuratively over to them.
Awesome. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you so much for having us, and we're really appreciative of the time and also the work that you all do. So, thank you for spotlighting Glenn today. I'm excited to just, give a brief presentation overview on, who we are, what we do, and kind of the work and how it intersects with the mission. So, love to just give a quick background about myself. So I'm Dylan. I'm one of the co-founders of NairChat and really started this company because of a very close friendship of mine. So my closest friend, I met him through my college, Vanderbilt, through in a program called Best Buddies. He was using a device to communicate, and at the time, I knew not much about, AAC in the world of assistive technology, but we became very, very close. And I learned a lot about him just by, being with him, most days. One of the things that actually came up so much, having been in the schools with him in the places where he was being supported, was this idea of visual supports. So we found that, visuals were so important and impactful for him and his friends, to allow him to live a more free and more independent life. Um, the issue was the process of creating them was just so cumbersome. So we'd find, teachers and specialists often spending hours on a Sunday manually dragging and dropping or creating these visuals, and most times maybe giving up, and we would just pay out of pocket for something pre-made. And it felt like the system was just a little broken. We wanted a way to meet our learners where they're at and build a visual that actually speaks to them. That's the reason we call it Glint, is that we, have this central belief that a visual that is made should shine or glint to the learner it's made for. So that is the essence behind what we do. We did start this pretty much a year ago now, and in that short amount of time, we've grown to hundreds and hundreds of school districts, healthcare organizations, provider orgs, and more. Even parents start to use us. So I like to describe it as the easiest way to become a visual superhero in just minutes. And you'll see how easy it is to pick it up. I'll do a very quick introduction. I'll also leave you with some nice little gifts at the end of like, since we're approaching summer and people, it's the end of the school year, it's the end of a lot of things we're starting up now. You deserve some relaxation, so I'll leave a little gift at the end too. So I'm excited to just jump in and tell the story and show you more. So go ahead and share just so everyone can see. Can you see my screen? Perfect. So welcome to Glint. I just wanted to give you a very quick overview of how the system works and how we actually, support individuals on a day-to-day basis. Now, this is our homepage. When you first log into Glint, you will see a ton of different types of templates at the very top. And these are examples of structures that we have that you can start creating right off the bat. This box at the bottom is how we jump in. We call it the Glint box. And if you know what you want to make, you can really go ahead and start doing it now. By way of example, I'm going to click on the button that says select a template and go through all the examples here. We have things like simple grids, social stories, task analysis, flipbooks and schedules, checklists, WH questions, minimal pairs, sentence strips, first then boards, recipes, bingo, contingency maps, cycles, token boards, and even social story books. Our second category has these activities. These are more, digital based that you can create. So matching games, word building, tic-tac-toe, spinners, and dice. Lastly, we do have some device templates, which are some printouts that you can really make and slot right into these amazing devices that exist. So
Can
how
I
does,
ask a question
yeah,
about this as well? Um, do you also have, I know lots of different types of AAC have a variety of ways that they make boards for people to communicate with. And they also sometimes come with a regular, not regular, but a standard keyboard function. Is this also accompanied with a standard keyboard function as well?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. I think part of the distinction to make also is thinking about where does Glint fit in the sense of a communication tool, right? So we don't claim to be any sort of AAC device replacement or anything like that. Rather, we're more of that kind of environment that encapsulates or surrounds communication. So while we do have these things like core boards and simple grids, it's very much like in tandem with these other sorts of devices that people are already using. So you'll notice that anything you make with Glint, whether it be a core board or a simple grid, is a singular layer. There is no like folder creation and stuff like that that happens. So it's actually really nice to be able to make these boards. We'll talk about the why as it comes along, but yeah, pretty typically you will see people use and then edit later with Glint. Or they'll have like boards for words or a keyboard function and that sort of thing. Like that is something that exists, although it's not the primary use case for what we do. Think of us as like a jack of all trades built for like functional real-time supports and things in seconds. So I think it'll make more sense if we once we dive into an example and actually see how it all works. That's
Great.
awesome. So let me take you through and let's actually make something together. So one thing I'd love to create is, let's just say we were starting with a task analysis and we have, someone who is trying to learn how to say wash hands, right? What we do is over here on the right hand side, we have three options. The first is thinking about, how many steps that we want. I'll go ahead and choose something like three. Glint is also multilingual, so we have over 50 languages that we can speak in addition to English. So I'll go ahead and choose, say, Serbian. And then lastly, we choose our word complexity. I'll go with elementary. And now we're ready to type something in, like, washing hands, right? Three steps on how to wash your hands. And if you were to do this manually, it might take you a little bit of, but we come in and actually do this for you in seconds. So here we go. We're able to create this. And what's unique is not just that you can make this, is that when you click,
Prvo, navlaži roke vodom.
we can have it speak in any language you want. Everything has the bare minimum to how we work. When you click on speech, you can have it speak in English alone, your second language, or both languages consecutively. So while we did start this and we specialized in speech pathology and special ed, we started to see Glint starting to seep into things like, English language learning, ENL, and different types of aspects within the care continuum. You can also change things like the voice and have so many different types of feeds here. So it's quite think about how are we meeting our learners where they're at. This is a great way. You even might think about this at-home transition, and it's so impactful to have something that's in your home language, right? When we have these families that might be speaking another language at home, we're able to send these and actually have that used. So we made it. It was pretty quick. There is a very easy way to edit or adapt the visual with what we call Glint Flow, and it's the most quick way to edit something where you can just type in, add another step, and Glint can go in and modify our board based on our requests. So it's pretty amazing that it is able to do that in just a second. We do make things and it will add some sort of default photo, and all we got to do if we don't like it is either undo or edit the visual and select something. And notice something like rinse has a ton of different types of options, right? I might say I would like this one, and we are good to go. So within Glint, there is a lot of leeway to get specific and actually modify what we make. Typically people will select one symbol, they'll choose another. They're often uploading their own images to make it familiar, or they're going and getting a real photograph of something that they want with a
Can you
background.
shift steps 3 and 4?
Yeah, of course, you can go ahead, you could like drag and drop, move things around,
Okay.
and it's that easy for it to work.
Because I noticed that they were out of order, and I'm curious if that's also a way in which these storyboards can be helpful for people with um, various disabilities to show a level of understanding. Has it been
100%.
has it been used in that way before?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm so excited to talk about this because it's a very interesting thing. Sometimes people use this in terms of like actual, sequences and using them to support. And other times we have folks who come on and they're working on, say, a sequencing activity, right? You might want to have this out of order. So if we flip to our canvas, you could put them out of order, of course, and we could remove the numbers and such, right? I mean, I can go ahead and just delete the numbers for us. I mean, I would have to actually ungroup them and then delete them. But this is actually a brand new function that we have here. And what's really unique about it is we can have this now as like a sequencing activity. So I'd be able to like put these out of order and say, hey, come in here and organize this as you want in the correct organization. So it's quite nice to be able to work like that. This is the canvas. It's our unstructured version of Glint. It operates like Canva in the sense that everything is like malleable. You can move it around, you can group, ungroup, and kind of separate and even hear them speak if you'd like. So that's for sure a use case. So I would say sometimes Glint gets used in terms of that, like, more active, like, let's put this in the right order. And secondly, people use this as just a general support. The way that people use this, they're either having this digitally on a device, since we're a website, you can have it on a computer, an iPad, Chromebook, it doesn't matter. Sometimes they full screen the boards, it's on an iPad or it's on, a screen in front of a room. People come up, they hear it out loud. Now, a learner might use this by hitting the share button. You'll be able to print these out to use them physically if you'd like. Sometimes we are making these worksheets. It's a click, things like a name, a title, parent signature line, the whole 9 yards you might need. And one of the most impactful things is our accessibility in the sense of Glint Anywhere. Glint Anywhere allows you to click on this button and get a QR code version that's shareable of this Glint. So we have these steps, right? And I want to be able to share them to someone. If you go ahead and were to scan my QR code right now, you will be able to use this visual in real time with the speech output on your device, no login required.
Let me go ahead and give it a go. Let me
Yeah,
see
go
if it
for it.
works. Okay. Oh, yep, we're loading.
We're loading and
And
get
now we're in.
and click on any of those lines and let me know once you hear the voice output.
Okay. Yes, I hear it.
So there you go. It's the first time in history that we are sharing these high quality visuals with parents, with families. They're getting these types of supports and being able to use them in the places they are needed the most. A behavior might come up in a home. We have a social story ready for it. You might work on something in a clinic or a school, but when you get home, there not that much of that at home transference. So we excel in this idea of like bringing really good carryover of concepts and types of behaviors that you're looking to work on or improve. This QR code. It's so accessible. There is no barrier to entry, and you can just scan it and use it. People print these, they copy them. Um, you can even text or share it away. So it's no problem whatsoever. Now, the other amazing thing with this QR code, we have something called the Glint app. The Glint app has a couple of main advantages. It's a completely free app, and the two main advantages of this, number one, you can then scan a QR code or link, or add a link, and use the Glint offline without internet access. And the second piece is you can then organize them into specific folders. So what this means is we can actually give you a visual and have you use that, in places where you need it. It becomes part of your AT toolkit wherever you are. We have so many learners who use this in such awesome ways. They could be ordering food at a restaurant. They have a board for this. Just the other day, I heard a story about one of my very good friends who has a Glint board, and she uses it for actually going to, it's the first time she was able to check her bag at the airport alone with no support. And it's really awesome. So as we think about this idea of like, how are we bringing more autonomy and independence? It's being able to have this like as a clean toolkit that's accessible that you can use anywhere you are. So the Glint mobile app is so impactful for that. Just last week, we also released a way.
I have a question about
Yeah,
that story.
totally.
So to to break it down for the viewers, was this person able to approach when it was time to check her bag and use the social story from her phone to communicate what she needed?
It was actually more for like the steps themselves. So she had not had the opportunity to do this, and she was at one of those kiosks, right? Not with the representative, but like one of those kiosks, like to print out the bag tags, the check tags.
Okay.
So she had a printout of the instructions on how to do that from Glint, and she used that to kind of get it through.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah,
So it was like a ready-made tool all set to go for her so that
exactly.
she could do it herself. That's
Yeah,
great.
that's right. That's right. So it's just one of the many examples of how this QR code and link is so important. You know, the printouts are one thing, but when we want to be able to bring a dynamic support like this, it could be used for, yes, to your point, functional communication, like the story I mentioned of like being able to order food at a restaurant, right? Or it could be used just as a kind of aid for just autonomy and working on daily acts of living that you might want to be focusing on. So those are some of the key takeaways of like why we see Glint being used, right? So hopefully that gives some good sense of how that works. I'd also be remiss to show you, if I didn't show you all of these awesome features of like accessibility, my favorite ones live in this right over here where it says more. You can change things like borders, like spacing, fonts, going in and being able to change like colors, word bubbling, and even adding things like high contrast, you're able to do. So we have so many different types of accessible features, including switch, eye gaze, accessibility. So they all live right inside of here. And then over here on the top right, we do have these skin tones, and the skin tones are all about being able to personalize this and meet a learner where they're at. So it's just that easy. And you could always just translate these boards at any point in time. So if I wanted to, I could say I want this in French now, and it's in French. I just sneezed, so I muted. Um, but yeah, there you go in terms of the creation side. Does that part make sense?
It does. What do you see? I know you're only a year in, you said?
Yeah,
A year into this, so very much early days. Um, and you've made it clear that this tool, that Glint works well with other AAC, but that it doesn't necessarily take the place
yeah.
of other AAC. So where do you see the tech um, being used with other AAC best?
It's a great question. The main use case I see is just using this in tandem. So one of the big things that draw people back by AAC is the time that it might take to organize or program a device. So what people really love about Glint is the fact that it's so functional, it's so built for the moment, right? If I could go ahead and make a board, I'm like, I'll go here, click on the simple grid, make a board that I might use to talk about a coffee shop. The fact that it does it so quick and easy is just so great for this functional communication aspect. So what I see often, the number one use case is being able to actually share the links and paste it in to a button itself within an AAC device. So you could actually link any of these supports into the button and it's ready to go and use in that way. The second way people use this is just having the Glint app and something that they can flip between. The Glint app might have a folder with all the supports they might need when they're taking a trip or they're doing something. So again, back to that like real-time communication need and autonomy need that we think about. So, you
So
know,
the Glint app is, would you say that's best used when you're on the go?
100%, 100%. That's precisely the main use case is like the fact that it can be used offline and that you can, take a whole bunch of glints in one place with you.
Okay, great. That's a really that's good to know. Um, because obviously we um and anyone within the disability community space, whether you're offering services or just you're a family member or a friend, you acknowledge the fact that people with disabilities are on the go, just like everyone else. So the communication needs become as, as important when they're going, here, there, everywhere. So I'm making a little note now that about the Glint app because there is definitely something to be said for having multiple options to use this with.
Yeah, and you think about it in the sense of some of our learners, they feel better when they're not lugging around a huge iPad that makes them feel alienated. They feel better when they're carrying around a phone, everyone else in the world's carrying around a phone. It makes them psychologically just more comfortable with using something like a communication support that they might rely on as a day-to-day function, right? So it's part of this idea of like what can we do to also help our learners feel more comfortable in using the modes that are best for them. So that's a real advantage of the Glint app that it's something we just started hearing about recently. And we didn't think about it when we first designed it.
That is actually really cool. And I'm personally when I have sessions like this with my team, whether they're spotlights on specific tech or webinars, um, the concept of blending in with your community members often comes up. So uh, this is really doing just that. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
I think the best forms of AT are things that could be just applied to your life in a way that feels right to the user. The user should feel like better when they use it. It should be helping them in that sense. So
Right.
if it's pain, then us as a tech designer, the creators of a platform like this, we obsess over like what do we do to number one, make this so easy that anyone can jump in and use it, and two, how do we make this user experience so good that people want to just keep coming back and use it? So that's part of the obsession that we have is like everything around the user experience.
Great.
So I like that little sidebar. It's awesome. Um, One thing that's also really cool is the fact that we have a library. So when you go ahead and click the save button, you have the ability to either save this to your personal glints or actually your community library. Typically, it's if you're part of a school, if you're part of a group, right? You can save this to be part of this. So when we click on library, there are three main parts. Your glints, which is like your personal creations and folders and whatnot. We do have a public library which has thousands of pre-made examples. Many of them are early literacy, boards and activities, task analysis, even core boards that you can go ahead and have and use as a starting place. If you go through here, there's so many options and you can go in, click on something, and either modify it using Glint Flow or manually, modify it as you need. There's a lot of cool ones. So I suggest, kind of taking the peek through here. The really important thing is what's called the shared library. This is more like, if you're part of an organization or district, you have your private repository that's separate from anyone else. And you can see we have a lot of our friends in here. These are all like our friends themselves making some things. And this is just a really cool way to use your glints and have them in this private environment. You share across buildings, across, members of your group. So it's really nice in that way. And really just to close out, Glint is so versatile. We train the model on, all of these early literacy books, on speech sounds, on, so many different types of concepts that underlie speech pathology and special ed. So when you talk to it, you could feel comfortable asking for things that need extra context. When you click on the plus button, you also have the ability to add files or photos, which is really comes in handy when you want to adapt the material or put it into another format. Sometimes we have folks coming in using this for curriculums, Or oftentimes they might have, a form from the DMV. They'll paste it in here and create a board out of that, or some sort of a, task analysis out of it. You can even ask for real images as a default using this button right here, and that will come out. And last but not least, there are a ton of global settings. So when you first jump onto Glint, you can configure a lot of these just one time and have these just as the default functionality on all the boards that you end up creating with Glint. So this is how it works. And support is at the core of everything. So everything you see here throughout that past year, we listen so closely to our users. We spend time in schools, we spend time in different settings with our users, hands-on, and people submit us their feedback right here in this help button where they just type in what they need, and boom, in seconds, we will, get that request and be able to respond in a meaningful fashion. So sometimes it's, hey, I want to make this type of template. I need help doing this. I need help doing that. We can actually respond in real time back to you via email once you put in your request or screenshot here. So you're
What
never alone when you're using Glint.
what do you think? That's actually really great that the functionality of asking questions for support for Glint works so well. What would you say people are using? What are your most popular um, functions right now? I know that you talked a lot about task analysis boards
Yeah.
and really communicating um, in the moment quickly, like when out and about. What would you say are the most popular functions and features at the moment?
Yeah, I would say it really varies based on the users and who you are that's benefiting from this, but I would say, in no particular order, like the simple grids happen to be very used, social stories, task analysis, schedules and flipbooks, checklists, and WH questions. Like all these like main ones up here, even like first ends, those typically are the ones that are the most high yield because they're just so versatile. They hit those needs of like, functional communication or, when we think of like the schedules and such, these are more like behavior supports. Those are what I would say are the probably most highest yield and most used functions. It's going to depend on your role though, on who you're supporting, who you're working with.
Have you found that more? Um, Obviously, I see the connection between teaching and education and students using this for sure. But do you also find that it is just as valuable for adult users who have disabilities and whatnot?
100%. It's something we're also learning more about. As you know, we did design this for K through 12, so that was like where we started. So much of what you're seeing is purpose-built for K through 12. But now we're starting to see that the need is so great that people are even using this from now for older adults, for 21 plus in different types of situations. So it's our duty to kind of, listen to more of those types of individuals and clients who are using it in that regard, and we were coming in and pretty much building features out to make that experience better. So I would say stay tuned for more of that because there's a lot of work that we're doing to make that experience just a lot better.
Excellent. And then everyone's favorite or not favorite question. What is the cost and how does that process work? Like, is there a one-time cost? Is there a continued cost?
Yeah, so the way we operate is since we really care about being there for you, we operate via a subscription model. So the subscription starts at 150 per year. And if you're part of an organization, we end up bulk discounting you per license, which is really amazing. So the higher license counts you get, we can be flexible in terms of that pricing. Be on the lookout if you're going from an individual standpoint that there are promotions and deals that come up every so often with sort of discount codes and such. So that also comes up.
Great. Well, I just want to thank you so much for your time today. This looks like a really not only useful but enjoyable tool, which is always good, right? Um, Sometimes people focus too much on use and necessity, um, as opposed to overall comfort and um, the other positive aspects of just like living. and how these tools can help improve, like living on a level that goes beyond necessity. So this was really great, and we thank you for your time.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, not at all. I am going to stop the recording.